The Reverend Richard Teal takes over as President of the Methodist Conference this weekend. He takes over for his year in office at an extraordinary time in both the history of our country and the history of our church. He kindly made time to speak to us at City Road Methodist Church. I started off by asking him the question that is on many lips at the moment. Where is God in this crisis?
Well, hello, David, and thank you for this interview, and thank you for this very interesting question. It depends how you feel about God. If you think God is some kind of magician who sort of waves wands around and gets rid of COVID-19 or whatever it may be at the time, that's not the God that we Christians believe in. I would want to say that God is right at the very heart of what we're going through at this moment in time. So if I could just give you a very little example, because I'm from a rural circuit, I'm a superintendent minister. So I know what's going on in churches and in communities because that's where I'm living. In one of my little villages, a particular lady from the Methodist Church has started a food bank. She's ensured that if people need shopping because they can't get out, it happens. Newspapers are delivered. GP prescriptions are got and delivered. If people are lonely, it's ensured that there is visits via telephone or whatever. So I would say that that's where God is right in the heart of it, helping individuals on the ground where they're living through other people to help and to ensure that the quality of life is still good and people are not lonely, people are not isolated, people are being helped and supported. So I think that's how I would see that God is active in good in others, not just in Christians, in all kinds of people for the sake of the good of humanity.
But presumably we continue to pray for a vaccine, we continue to pray for a solution to the crisis in terms of economic matters.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, the news was telling us just very recently that it looks as though the development of vaccines is now going ahead at a great rate. We're not quite sure yet what the outcome of those will be, but it looks really, really positive. We pray for the scientific people, we pray for the medical profession, of course we do. And we pray for industry too, and people who are worried about work and worried about jobs. Of course we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's been happening on the ground of the Methodist Church? Because we were all told to close. So what's happened next?
Yeah, close, lock our doors, keep them closed. Well, I'm a superintendent minister in a rural circuit, 300 square miles in East Yorkshire. All our churches are closed from lockdown, and they are at the moment remaining so. We feel very strongly at the moment in time, and I think some churches will feel differently, but for the sake of people who are vulnerable, we want to continue to protect people in those local churches. I have to say, one of my churches, the playgroup has recently opened, and I'm delighted about that, for vulnerable families and for key worker children. And that's been very, very hard for that playgroup to start up, and all that the preparation they have to do and the work they have to do and the cleaning they have to do every single day, and how they have to isolate the children and keep them in bubbles, etc. They can't play with this, they can't play with that. But that group of very committed staff have done a fantastic job for key worker children and for vulnerable families, and that's happening all over Methodism as those kinds of groups are beginning to reopen. I think what I've been really, really interested in and didn't expect, the development of online stuff in the life of the church. So, for example, from the first week, and I'm not hugely technical, but it's developed, and I think for a lot of churches, this is a developing scene, we're learning as we're going on, the development of Sunday worship online. Because people are totally being deprived of worship altogether. So I started off by doing something very, very simple. Each week and it's progressed as we've gone on, and we now have songs, we now have hymns with different people taking part. People have asked me not to do just a short reflection, but to preach, you know, a 15-minute sermon. So people's faith is being fed, and it's been wonderful to see how many people have taken part in that in a very rural community. And so we have now roughly every Sunday morning worshipping with us around about 300 people, which is more than we'll be getting in the circuit on a Sunday morning, on a normal Sunday morning. The glorious thing also has been that I've had a number of letters and a number of emails from people in the community who said, Richard, will this please continue post-COVID-19? And it's all been from people who are not what I would call normal churchgoers. Every single one of them have said, we don't go to church. I don't know the reasons for that, but this has been a real help and a real support. And as one woman wrote last week, and she said, your Sunday worship and the prayers which you're now offering each day, which I'll come to in a moment, have got me through lockdown. Now, if that's done that for one person, that's fantastic. And we started just literally 4 weeks ago at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning via FaceTime Live, just having 10 minutes of morning prayer. And we're getting between 100 and 150 followers every single day for that. It wouldn't be happening, I'm afraid to say, if we had a circuit prayer meeting every morning, but it is doing so via online. And again, it's reaching a number of people who are not coming to church. And one of my church members had said that her daughter's mother has never been to church in her life, but she's now following us on a Sunday morning and each morning for prayer. And what a great help and support it's been to her. So that's some of the things that are going on. And again, if I can just continue where I am, because I can speak from the lived experiences.
Yes.
So that's the online stuff which is developing. And I think it developed more. And there's lots of great stories around about things like message churches now happening online, story time for children happening online, lots of different things. And that will go on and that will develop. And that's tremendous. I think pastorally, I have been absolutely thrilled of how the church has responded. Where I am, the pastoral visitors phone their pastoral lists every single week to make sure people are okay. And that has produced an enormous sense of keeping together and of community and of care and of love. And that's been happening all around the circuit where I am privileged to be the superintendent minister. So it's not the same as what you and I would call normal church, but some really good things come out of it that I was not expecting.
Yeah, I must admit, I can't help feeling that sometimes perhaps what's happened may actually have a very positive benefit of the church.
Yeah, I think so. And I think this outreach of online stuff, which I wasn't expecting at all, you know, I thought, yes, church people would watch it, but other people are really getting into it.
It's our experience.
And we've got to, yes, I think it's the experience everywhere, David. We've got to find out why that is. Why are people coming to us in this way who wouldn't normally come through our church doors? It's a very interesting question, and we need to do some work on it.
Right, now then, I was interested to and you've referred to it a couple of times, about the fact that you're very much a rural minister. I think most of your ministry has been in rural areas.
That's correct.
Do you think there's a special message for the rural areas? Because when I read some of the things in the Methodist Recorder about rural areas, my hair stands on end, what's left of it. Because I do sometimes wonder if we really understand what is actually going on in the countryside.
Yeah. What makes your hair stand on a end? Could you just say that? That will help me into.
I think it's that people think it's a nice, you know, you're all down there in these areas, in nice little cottages with roses round the door and so on. You know.
Well, people talk about the rural idyll. It's a very romantic picture, and what's very popular on the television these days, and even on radio, are country programs. Things about rural life. There's loads and loads of them that sprung up in the last few years, and some of them are very good, and some of them, in my opinion, are very false, because they give this picture and stimulate this picture of this rural idyll. That is not what rurality is about, and it's not true. The rural community is an under-resourced community. It's in many areas of rural life, there's huge poverty, lack of rural transport, unemployment. Lots of rural people, because of the kind of employment there is or there isn't in the rural area, have to have multiple jobs just to survive, usually low paid. There's huge areas of people with isolation issues in the rural area. There are very often low aspirations in the educations of young people. Lack of work opportunities. I think I mentioned pocketed poverty, but unlike maybe in an urban or in a city area, in a rural area, poverty is pocketed in very small areas, and so very often it's hard to see and it's hard to know that it's there. Just the other day, I was talking to the local policeman in the town where I live, and I was asking how things were going, and he was talking to me about the huge growth during lockdown of domestic violence and child abuse in the area where I am, a very sparsely populated rural area, huge increase, and I suspect that is happening not just in rural areas, but is happening everywhere as well. There's development in the last few years of country lines, the drug trafficking, which is very prevalent in many rural areas. Again, quite underground, sometimes unseen and unnoticed. But then, particularly when I served in Cumbria, which I did until moving to East Yorkshire, it was hugely developing in the county of Cumbria. In the life of the church, well, again, I would say small congregations very often, struggling congregations, under-resourced and poorly resourced congregations are part of the rural scene. So I've purposely mentioned the sort of negatives. I've done that on purpose because the rural scene is beautiful. It's lovely to live in. It's a great place to live and to bring children up, but it is not a rural idyll.
Now, you have got an accent, a very distinctive northern accent.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering where you are from. Whereabouts were you
from? Originally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Originally, I was born in Skipton.
Oh, right.
Into North Yorkshire, and brought up in a village on a farm just about 6 miles out of Skipton.
Right. Now then, I just wanted to ask one other question. Are you going to be coming to Birmingham during your presidential year?
Well, this year, the president each year is allotted different districts, and Birmingham isn't an allotted district visit this year. But I am coming to Queen's College, the Methodist Training College. I was hoping to spend a week with students there about rural ministry. I was going to spend a couple of days with them in the college, then go out into the rural areas around the country, right. Staying on farms and villages and seeing what rural ministry was about, then coming back to the college and another couple of days with them as we thought about what that all meant. Due to COVID-19, I'm afraid, that has all been cancelled, like a number of things on the presidential list this year. But I am still coming, all being well, to have some time with the students at the college in Birmingham.
Well, we are 1.5 miles from Queen's College.
Are you really?
So we would really love to see you pop in. And we had a student from Queen's College, Dan Balsden, who's being received. You're receiving him into connection tomorrow afternoon, on Saturday.
Tomorrow evening. Saturday, yes.
Saturday,
oh, lovely, yes. Lovely.
And he came and he had quite amazing effect on our church. So we got very fond memories of Queen's.
Right. That's lovely.
Okay.
David, you write to me and invite me.
We will do that.
Please do that.
Richard Teal, thank you very much. It's been a real blessing to speak with you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Every blessing to you.
Thank you for joining us online at City Road Methodist Church, Birmingham. If you'd like to know more about us, go to our website www.cityroad.org.uk or find us on Facebook and Twitter.